My name is Gary Mabalit.
My name is Israel Easy Mabalit.
I'm Corinne Makapugai.
Hi, I am Mike Savala.
Yeah, it's your boy, the Kuya.
And I am Team Only Stronger.
I am Team Only Stronger.
And I am Team Only Stronger.
I am Team Only Stronger.
I am Team Only Stronger.
What are some things that you think as parents or citizens of the community can do to inspire prevention or increase resilience?
I'll start with that. I think the biggest thing that we need to, or not need, but we have to do is how do we create a bigger impact? Because really at the end of the day, it's like the impact that matters the most. The impact of how many lives we could save, how many abused and traumatized victims that we can somewhat heal and able to find ways to get their power back, and I think for them to get their power back, it's what type of really healing they're gonna be needing from, because every trauma is different, every healing is different. So really it's the impact of how can we make bigger impact and to be able to spread more the awareness and really not fight but just eliminate the stigma, because it all starts from the house. It doesn't really, most of the time, it doesn't start from strangers. It starts from your own family members. Yeah. So how do you actually be able to gather your thoughts, feelings, and to get in there and eliminate that, because when you could fight all day, but then what's the end?
You gotta break cycles.
Yeah. So what's the cycles. So how do you end the patterns?
Right.
Because the patterns is always
Silent.
Short term.
Yeah.
But forever silence.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's my take on how I want to do it, and plus it's for the next generation. And
What's really crazy is this is not an ongoing battle, but things are coming more to light in the days that we're living now, where these things are becoming normalized. Through things that are going through social media and the brands that are being exposed for their engagement with human trafficking, sexual trafficking with children, and using them to normalize pedophilia, and it makes it it makes it that more of an urgent situation that we broadcast in any which way, form, or fashion that this is not right. It's sad to say that these people are people that we look up to as icons or heroes and celebrities or whatever that are promoting this. And here we're just like regular people who have felt the damage of this type of behavior.
So I love that, Izzy, you're talking about it from like a very home-based, like micro standpoint, and then Kuya is bringing it really wide about our societal issues. And you're both right? Like one of the things that we don't do enough is have these conversations, like we were talking about last night. Say that we all know a family where somebody's dad or somebody's uncle did one of the girls wrong or one of the boys wrong, and half the family just ignores it or denies it, and then the other half might take a stance, or sometimes they don't say anything, right? Because we have, in so many of our cultures, black, brown cultures, we have such a hard time dealing with shame. We have a hard time talking about drama. We want to save face all the time. That's a really difficult thing for us to do. And then what happens? Our kids feel invalidated. Thank gosh they even speak up when they do. But if they speak up and nobody listens, what does that tell them? They're just going to keep taking abuse. And I'm seeing the effects now. I mean, you know this too. How many of our homies in their 40s and 50s now, I've had to talk 2 of them literally from ending their lives this year. And that's why I'm affected, because this is shit that happened to them growing up, and it's just crashing in on them now because they never dealt with it for 40 something years, never dealt with it, and now it's bubbling up. I don't want to lose any of our people anymore to unresolved trauma. It shouldn't have to get that far. So whatever we could do to call out inappropriate behavior, say, no, this is not cool, no, you cannot be doing that, no, you cannot be touching people, like you can't be doing that. Holding each other accountable, calling that shit out. And it gets sensitive when it's family, right? But if it's not brought to light, and if we're not holding each other accountable in a loving way, if there's a way to do that, then things just keep perpetuating. And then what are we doing to support our children and even adults who've been harmed? Because hurt people hurt people. So if they don't get any kind of resolution, they don't get any support and help, if nobody's telling them, like, your experiences are valid, we're here for you, whatever you need, we'll help you get it, then who knows what they're going to end up doing when they grow up too.
You know, with what you're saying, what happens when a child speaks his truth and the person that they love most doesn't listen or invalidates what they say, they learn not to trust.
That's more harm.
Yeah.
And that's even more harm because that carries on to the relationship that they have with people.
Yeah, because it all leads to, you know what I mean, like when you say Korean validation. If you don't validate their feelings or by the way they express their feelings, it's just gonna limit themselves to really want to say what what's been going on with them.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's in present or it's been the past, and then it just, you know, they just bury themselves from whatever bandage that they be using or to cope with it. So
I think you know, this whole dialogue that we're having today, and the more awareness is being brought, allows for people to have real conversations and to be able to come out, not only and educate. You know, there's a lack of education in how, you know, childhood traumas like sexual molestation, how it affects the human being over a lifespan. You know, and this is only now being, you know, brought to light in our culture, in our brands. It's almost like the Industrial Revolution, where children were hired to work in these machineries
No protection.
because they had smaller hands. They could reach up in these mills and grab things, and they were maimed. They lost hands, they lost arms, but there was a lack of education that these aren't just small human beings.
Right.
These are undeveloped human beings, and the more we talk about these things, we're educating those people that don't probably understand that, you know. And if we continue to talk about it, the kids are going to know that behavior is not okay, so that when it does, if it ever does happen to them, they know that, hey, they're in a safe space where they can talk about this.
yeah, it's the pattern of conditioning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it also discourages those who are inclined to be attracted to, you know, children as well, you know. So it works. It's the more we talk about it, I think it's just, you know, the better.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, we're really trying to harp on fighting that stigma. Okay. And the reason why I'm so passionate about fighting the stigma is because the downward spiral that I went on when I found out that everything that I was going through, the guilt that I was putting on myself, was because I fed into that stigma. You know, they say, you know, retrospect is 2020, right? And so when everything happened, first thing that went through my mind were all of the moments that seemed off to me, that I could have said something, that it was weird, and when I found out, all I did was validate all those moments were actually a sign that I could have spoke up about. But because it was a family member, because I was conditioned to trust that person,
Right.
I didn't, because I thought, well, I mean, could that be? You know, it wasn't sure. It was just something. It was something like I heard, and when I say it out loud, it still kills me a little bit. You know, but there was a time that I remember as vividly when we were passing hallways, and he spoke to my daughter, and he said, remember our secret. And so that triggered me, or it got me. I was like, what? And so he went upstairs, and I pulled my daughter aside at that point because it didn't sound right to me. And I said, hey, what's your secret? What's a secret you're talking about? And she was so afraid, either of him getting in trouble or something that he said, and she told me that the secret was that she had a piece of chocolate that she wasn't supposed to have or something like that. And I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "You could tell me. Are you sure? Please tell me." And she didn't tell me. You know, and so it is that stigma. I try to speak up, but she couldn't find it in there to help to tell me. You know, luckily, eventually she ended up telling her mom, and that's how we were to find out. You know, and that kind of just brings me to, you know, another aspect of this whole situation is that as a father, I was conditioned, you know, from the past. I didn't really know how I was. I wasn't aware of, you know, me not being approachable enough for my daughter to tell me. And so, you know, I think we do at some point, whether it's right now or another time, we need to address that having that, like, being able to being open to a conversation with our kids is important.
Yeah.
You know, because we need to be approachable. Our kids need to trust us to be able to talk to them, and yeah, and that's just that the stigma is the root of all of this. And again, by having this platform and all the other initiatives that we have going on, that's grounded with a foundation of fighting that stigma. You know, wearing the brand itself, I told you, it's an active brand, because when we wear it, if no one's ever heard of it and someone asks about it, there's a conversation right there. There's a conversation that we could have with another person that somebody else can overhear. You know, it's just something that will work. And our message is to speak up, have the conversation. The more the conversations out there, like you were saying, the more we can make it safe to talk about in general.
I love that you ended on the word safe, because when Mike said that, when you mentioned safe spaces, like that's the very beginning we could do, right? Like how can we make sure us as parents, because I question that all the time, you know, like, can my kid, right? Like we're not perfect. We're not. I'll be the first. I will mess up. I always think about conversations of how to make it where I speak out of anger. I don't have my head right. And I think, oh God, I fucked that up. But how can we make sure as parents we are creating a safe and open enough space so that our kids can come to us? You know, I'll tell you, through Salai and Filipina, they sent me through various high schools. There was one year in 2019, I spoke to over 2,000 high school kids. Okay, your kids are in high school. There are kids ages, and I asked asked each class, and maybe 30 kids, how many of you feel like you can come to your parents when you need to talk about something? And maybe only 3 of them would raise their hand.
I think because too is you know, like it all starts at home, right?
Yeah.
But then as you get older, as your kids gets older, you know, they'll learn how to do everything their way, as far as, you know, and as far as, you know, since we're talking about this, is really how they express their feelings, you know. So how, for me, I have to learn it the hard way, of like, how can my kids come to me or express this feeling to me, because I've been married for 18 years, and I have 4 kids, and the whole time it's just like, how can I have a serious or even just a good conversation with them about anything, you know. So I learned the hard way of just letting the ego, set your ego aside, let it go, and it's the way you approach them, the approach of love, and that's why you got to condition them with love and peace and positivity, and I think that's the best approach of conditioning the kids to be able to tell you what they want to
And not
say.
be afraid.
Yeah, to like, oh, you know, my dad's you know, my dad, my mom, they're cool, they're gonna understand, and you know, and the feeling of just that total, completely non-judgmental support, you know, and I think that's part of the things that we need to do, or we have to condition our next generation, is to be able to, you know, push that and meet in the middle.
Yeah, you know what the hard part about that is? Communication.
Yeah.
It's because nowadays kids communicate. You be in the same room and they're communicating through text.
Yeah.
Like, yo, why don't you just talk to me? And so we have to re-educate. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And it's not like going back to the back in the day. We don't have to go that far. But we have to bring back the sense of humanity. You know what I'm saying? And showing it, actively showing them, not just by actively telling them.
Yeah.
You know, and I say this because I need to practice it myself. I'm not a saint.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm human. And so when they realize, or when we can impart to them that knowledge that you're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna mess up,
Yeah.
and I'm not perfect myself, it's that sharing that brings about that safety. And that safety is now where you open up the door to be able to share like messed up feelings.
Please find us at our website at www.onlystronger.org, or you can find us on Instagram at IAM_onlystronger.